Well, hello, hello. This is Joanna Clark of Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching. And I am super excited to be here today for our Get Your Life Back. It Starts with Sleep Facebook Live. And I just wanted to say that I know I was here last week and Facebook was glitching and we had lots of complications. And I know that's really frustrating when you are taking the time to join me here. And I so much appreciate you all being here. And so then, unfortunately, those posts mysteriously disappeared from my feed. So I don't know what happened. Maybe they never posted. I don't know because they were glitching. So today I plan to stay here until I answer all the questions from last week, as well as to answer all the questions that I received in the last week. So I have Anastasia here with me, who is my fabulous virtual assistant, who is going to be supporting me when I need to reference something for you in the comments. So I'd just love to just check in and see who's here with me and where you guys might be from. Again, I'm Joanna Clark with Blissful Baby Sleep Coaching, and I'm a gentle sleep coach trained and certified. And I've been doing this for 10 years, and I'm really on a mission to help families be well rested. And I just really don't want anyone living in this sleep deprived haze where every day is a chore and every day is difficult because you're exhausted, when we know that we can help your children sleep well. So I received, I think there's 10 questions that I'm going to be reviewing today. And as soon as I hear from Anastasia that we are live and that everything is working correctly, because I'm a little bit paranoid from last week, then I will get started on asking questions. Or if any of you guys are here and you just want to pop in and just say where you're from, then I'll know that this is really working, because that's my biggest concern right now, that that this is actually going live where it's supposed to. So I'm going to kind of wait here and I'll just tell you a little bit more about me and my gentle sleep coaching method. So long ago, I was also a sleepless mother. So when my baby girl was 9 months of age, she still wasn't sleeping through the night. She was nursing all day and all night. It was a very difficult situation because she had a huge mom preference. She would not let my husband help at all. And I was just in a really difficult situation where I had people that wanted to help me and support me, and my baby girl wouldn't let them. And then it was up to me all day and all night. And I am definitely one of those people that needs a lot of sleep. And I had gone back to work. And so the situation just got so compounded that I knew I needed to reach out and and receive support on how to move past all the sleep struggles and help my baby learn how to sleep independently, and also to sleep happily, to be loving bedtime, to be waking up from naps happy, because she just was grumpy all the time. It was not a fun experience parenting her. And it was really difficult on my expectations of motherhood that, I was supposed to be loving this experience. And what I was really doing was dreading nights and dreading when I was in charge of naps. So flash forward 16 years later, I have been helping over 1,000 families over the years really help experience what I call a family sleep transformation, so that the baby has beautiful sleep skills, so that you as a family can come back and have that family vision that you would always hope for. So, okay, good job. All right, I see that we have some people here. So thank you so much for you guys for letting me know. We've got Zaina from LA. Great. Okay, so I am, I know some of you guys are here live, and I so much appreciate that. And I know many of you are going to be listening on the replay. And so if I'm moving through this and you end up getting some questions on the and you're watching this on the replay, please put in hashtag replay, and then I'll know when I'm reviewing the comments that this happened in the replay, so I can make sure to address your comments. Also, if there's additional questions that come in for any of the individuals that are here with us live that didn't get to submit questions, Anastasia is going to be posting a link so that you can submit questions for next week, and that I will be here live next week, and I will answer your specific question. I always love to come prepared to these conversations because I really want to strive to give you accurate and reliable information. And one of the ways I can do that is to have the questions and some of the background information submitted in advance, so I can, use my kind of sleep detective skills to get you, to be able to give you really accurate information. So Anastasia, if you could please post the link for people to submit questions for next week. And then if you have like light questions in here, I might not be able to look at the feed necessarily, because when I get in my zone, I'm like really in the zone. But Anastasia will collect those questions as well. And I might be able to go in and respond in the comment section. Okay, so thank you so much. All right, so the first question is from a mom named Vita. She's from California. She has a 6-month-old baby. And good news is that Vita's been sleep coaching her baby using the Sleep Lady Shuffle, which just in case this is the first time you've heard that concept, the book that she's referring to is called Good Night, Sleep Tight by Kim West. And again, it's called The Sleep Ladies Good Night, Sleep Tight by Kim West. And the concept here is called the Sleep Lady Shuffle, which is all about being in the room with your child while they're learning their sleep skills. And so they completed the shuffle. So bravo for having success. So she was able to do nights and naps, and things went really well. So fantastic. And so here is her question, though. Her question is, after completing the shuffle, is it normal for the baby to continue to cry a lot at bedtime? She sometimes cries for 1 to 2 hours every night. We reassure her intermittently during this time. Okay, so Vita, couple of things. 1 to 2 hours is too long for any kind of crying if you have truly successfully executed the Sleep Lady Shuffle. So I have a couple more questions for you, which is, are you hitting your child's accurate sleep window at the onset of sleep at bedtime? Because a child that's crying a lot at bedtime, once they have their independent sleep skills, then that means to me that they're going into the crib way too tired, and they are overstimulated, overtired, and they're having a very difficult time downregulating. Okay, so let me give you guys a point of context just to make sure everyone understands. So sleep, although it's a biological need, it's also a learned skill. And there's 3 skills in sleep: the ability to self-regulate, followed by the ability to self-settle, followed by the ability to self-soothe. Okay, so when you're truly doing sleep coaching with your baby, what you're really trying to do is create the right environment and the right circumstances for them to learn their sleep skills, regulate, settle, and soothe at the onset of sleep, at the right sleep window, without any kind of sleep crutch. That's really what sleep training is all about. So that when they have partial arousals throughout the night, they're able to go back to sleep without any kind of sleep crutch or sleep support. All right. Now, as I referenced earlier with Vita, it's possible that her baby is having a very hard time down regulating because it's taken her 1 to 2 hours to cry and fall asleep at bedtime, which to me, and again, I don't have all the details, but I would say, Vita, that it could possibly mean that she's going into the crib too drowsy. So when a child truly has their sleep skills, let me show you what this looks like. This is what I call the sleepy scale. 1 is your child's wide awake. 10 is your child's dead asleep. Okay. If a child truly has their independent sleep skills, they can go into the crib drowsy but awake, 5 or 6 on the drowsy scale, and they can regulate, settle, and then soothe themselves all the way to Dreamtown. 100% by themselves without any kind of sleep support, sleep crutch, meaning you don't have to rock them, you don't have to nurse them, you don't have to hold them. So they go into the crib drowsy but awake, 5 or 6 on the drowsy scale, and they walk themselves down into Dreamtown. Okay. So what happens to babies that are taking a long time to fall asleep, and especially if there's a lot of crying, is it means that you're probably putting them too drowsy, meaning maybe 8 or 9 on the drowsy scale, and they just don't have the emotional bandwidth to practice their sleep skills. So I would reevaluate if they're getting enough daytime sleep, and then I would reevaluate the appropriate sleep window between the time that they wake up from that last nap, which of course she's a 6-month-old, so she should be taking 3 naps a day, and she should have that last power nap should end somewhere between 4 and 5:30 p.m. It should end by then. And it's possible that you're keeping up too late. So on that note, many of you are probably saying, well, wait a second, my baby is 18 months. What's the wakefulness window between their nap and their bedtime? So I have another great resource to share with you guys, which I'm going to have Anastasia post in the feed for you guys. I have an amazing sleep chart that is literally, it's called the Ages and Stages Sleep Chart. And it literally gives all the ages of babies and all the sleep expectations that are required for day and night sleep, as well as the wakefulness windows. So it's an amazing, amazing resource to have available to you, so you know what you're trying to achieve with your daily sleep goals, and what you're trying to achieve for your nightly sleep goals, and what you're trying to achieve or work towards or monitor for your sleep windows, which gets your child better sleep. So again, look for that. I'm going to have her probably post that a couple of times. It's an amazing resource to have at your fingertips. Okay, so hopefully, Vita, that gives you a little bit more to kind of contemplate and think about as you, because honestly, you guys, once they have their sleep skills, it takes typically on any given night between 5 and 30 minutes for a child to go to sleep. If they have their beautiful sleep skills, it should take them no more than 5 to 30 minutes to fall asleep at the onset of sleep. There might be a little bit of protest, but not sustained and not for long periods. And they should be spending the majority of their time settling and soothing, not the majority of the time trying to downregulate. So I think what's happening is this particular baby is spending way too much time in the downregulation part, and it's probably because they're overtired and overstimulated. So I would just reevaluate daytime sleep requirements and wakefulness windows. Okay, I'm going to move on to I'm going to move on to the next question, which is Megan. And Megan's from California, and she has a baby boy who is 4.5 months of age. And Megan's really tired, you guys. I'm sorry, Megan, if you're here. I'm hoping you're here. I get it. Okay, so everybody here who has a child between the ages of 4 and 6 months of age, or has had a child between 4 to 6 months of age, totally probably relates to how Megan feels right now, because her baby is totally going through the 4 to 5 month sleep regression. And it just has her completely depleted. And what's challenging for Megan too, is that she has another child she's trying to take care of, right? So she's got this, essentially, in the world of sleep science, the newborn phase is considered 0 to 6 months. So her child is 4.5 months. So her child is still very much in the newborn phase and is going through this sleep regression. And so she's been trying to do some sleep training, and she's had some success, which is awesome. Again, she's been using the Sleep Lady Shuffle. So fabulous news on that. But what she's finding is that her child is being successful at being able to do drowsy but awake at bedtime. But where things are really falling apart is that the child is waking up multiple times a night, and she's needing to go back with the binky, which is the pacifier, or she's needing to go back and do some feeding. And she's also having the challenge that he knows how to roll one way, but not the other. So when he wakes up in the middle of the night, she's kind of confused, should I give the binky? Should I give the feeding? And also, did he wake up because he rolled onto his non-preferred sleeping position? So this is very common. This is really what causes the sleep regression. The sleep regression is caused from the massive physical and cognitive development that happens with that first milestone, which is the rolling milestone. And really the rolling milestone is almost 2 milestones in one. It's, front to back and then back to front. So they have to master 2 separate physical skills. And some babies roll through that milestone really fast. They do one side, then they do the other. And it's kind of miserable during that time, but then they're done and they enter into the sunny period and they're happy. For some babies, they master one side and then they kind of stall out trying to master that second side. And then that's where a lot of sleep regressions happen, is in that kind of period when they've mastered one side, but they haven't quite gotten over the hump with the second. So that's what I think is happening to Megan. So my first recommendation, Megan, is to absolutely do as much tummy time as possible when your child is not hungry or tired, multiple times a day, and put him in that non-preferred, put him in the position where he has to work to try to master it. So you might do this, 3, 4, 5 times a day when they're not hungry or tired, for very short intervals, 2 to 5 minutes max, really making him work on that other side of the milestone. Because I think you're going to keep bumping into challenges with your sleep training efforts until he gets up and over that. So I know this is going to sound really counterintuitive, but here's the deal. If you're thinking about the fact that sleep is a learned skill, you need to be looking at it through that lens all the time. And so if the skills are regulate, settle, and soothe, and in the middle of the night, he's unable to practice those skills because he gets in his wrong sleeping position, then he's probably not going to be terribly successful at helping him settle and soothe, because he's not able to, he might flip over and be on the wrong side and he gets disoriented. So he's not able to be in the right circumstances to settle and soothe under that. So I know this sounds weird, but what I would do, Mom, is I would just keep working on the onset of sleep at bedtime. And then I would just continue to give him his sleep crutches, both the binky and the feedings, in the middle of the night, and work really hard on the day to get him up and over that milestone, so that then once he's rolling on both sides, I'd go back to your sleep training endeavors when he has more mobility and he's through that milestone, which always makes them really cranky anyway. So that's what I would recommend there. And I know this is hard. Okay, Mom, I know I'm asking you to go back to crutching, and I know I'm asking you to then therefore get up multiple times a night. And it's kind of like, oh my gosh, that's not what I want to do. But what I don't want to do is have you exhaust yourself trying to sleep train a baby that isn't in the appropriate developmental phase to master it. And so then you would be working really hard to sleep train a baby that might not really get it all the way. And then you'd have to end up sleep training again later. And so I don't want you to be in this perpetual, 8-week sleep training mode. And besides, you're already making fabulous progress by working on drowsy but awake at bedtime. So at 4.5 months, that's amazing. And the reality is some babies just are not ready to be sleep trained in the middle of the night at that age. A lot of times the readiness starts to come online more after the milestone is complete and closer to 6 months of age. So I don't want you to feel like you've missed some magic window to sleep train, because I don't think that's true at all. It's never too late to sleep train. I work with families with children all the way up to 6. So I give you permission to use the sleep crutches, get them through this milestone, and then go back and reevaluate. And because I want those sleep skills to stick, and I don't want you to be in perpetual sleep training. It's too exhausting for you, because you guys, like poor Megan, she's like, you guys, this is what she said. I'm sure you guys can completely relate. I have 0 time for myself. That's what Megan said. It's the same thing every day. I'm so frustrated, right? I hear this literally every day for the moms that I talk to. No time for myself. No time for myself, no time for my partner, no time to get things done in the house, no time to tidy up the house, no time to exercise. So who else here on this, who's here with me right now live, can relate to that? Give me oh yeah, that's me. 0 time to myself. That is one of the things that is also kind of in my mission, is I want mothers to be able to take care of themselves again. Because parenting is hard and we often put ourselves last. And so what I want to do is help these babies sleep so that moms have a better probability of putting themselves back up on the list and getting some me time to exercise or caretake themselves or spend some quality time with their partner or get out and see their girlfriends, which of course during COVID is really hard, but at least do a Zoom session or take a walk around the block and have a phone call with a friend. And that you know that bedtime can be super easy so that you can go and take that walk. Yes, Megan just said, yep, I'm the queen of putting myself last. I know. And you know what? We've all been there. I've done that. I'm totally guilty of that. And so, we'll be guilty of that through ebbs and flows of our mothering and our motherhood. But if we just kind of always have the whispers in the back of our head that when we can tell we're down on the last of the list again, like it happens oftentimes without us even realizing it, that we've got to make deliberate efforts to do what it takes to get ourselves back, climbing back up on the list, because we just can't be the depleted ones because we're the caretakers. And ultimately, Megan said, gosh, if I could get this resolved, then I would have the energy to play creatively with my kids. And I would feel more optimistic and restored. And I want that for you, Megan. So it just might not be the perfect timing to sleep train your little one. But I think that maybe since he's already on to his Rolling Stone, maybe another week or two and you'll be good to get started again. Okay. All right. So the next question I have is from Betul. I hope I pronounced that right. She has a 28-month-old. She's from California, and it's a baby. It's a girl. And so let me just give you guys just a little bit of backstory with Betul. So when I repeat her question, it makes more sense. Right now, at the onset of sleep at bedtime, they are co-sleeping while they're lying down together. And so they do some reading, some singing, some massaging, and then lying down together. And then what happens is lots of bargaining. So even though mom is willing to lay down with the child and stay with her until she falls asleep, I imagine there's lots of what mom is calling bargaining. What I call is bedtime stalling and bedtime requesting, such as, I need another hug, rub my back, I want a different stuffed animal in my crib or, in the bed. I want more water. I want 5 ice cubes instead of 4 ice cubes in my water. So, it gets really hard. And so Betul is saying what's happening is that there she is lying down with this child. The child starts bargaining. And then it turns into a power struggle. Okay. And those of you that have a 2 and 3-year-old, who in here has a 2 and 3-year-old that is power struggling with you right now? Right. So if you have a 2 and 3-year-old that's power struggling during the day, whatever version you see of it in the day, it is going to show up tenfold at night. And that's what makes it so hard to do nighttime parenting with 2 and 3-year-olds. So they get into power struggle. Mom then kind of loses her patience and goes into kind of what she is saying is like kind of scolding mode, which more like I wouldn't even call it scolding, Mom. I imagine what you're doing is you're trying to bargain back with her, like, if you don't do this, then you'll get no TV tomorrow, or it's like an if then. You're probably stuck in a if then power struggle energy with your child at bedtime. So her question is there some sort of training or anything that will make this whole going to sleep experience less daunting and possible after the age of 28 months? Okay. So good news is because sleep is a learned skill, every child has the potential to learn their sleep skills. Everyone has the potential to learn their sleep skills. So yes, absolutely, Betul, your child can learn how to sleep beautifully and have drama-free bedtimes and sleep soundly throughout the night and sleep independently in her own bed so that you don't have to lay down with her at bedtime. That is all possible. As I mentioned earlier, I work with families all the way up to age 6. So it is really never too late for them to learn their sleep skills. However, in your particular situation, you're definitely going to have to do some sleep training with the types of sleep crutches you have at the onset of sleep. So remember that sleep crutch is defined as anything that has to be done to or for a child at the onset of sleep at bedtime. They will typically want some version of that assistance throughout the night. So Betul hasn't told me what's happening in the middle of the night, but we know that at the onset of sleep at bedtime, there is lots of stalling, requesting, bargaining, and mom has to lay down with her for probably a really, really long time until the child physically falls asleep. So that means to me, mom, that she's got probably, several sleep crutches at the onset of sleep that you're going to have to wean. And the only way to wean sleep crutches is to do some comprehensive sleep coaching. And, again, I trained with Kim West of Goodnight Sleep Tight. So you can absolutely buy the book and follow the suggestions for 2 to 3 year olds. Okay. Or you can, so let me say this, you guys. I'm going to start doing workshops and master classes because, again, with our life in COVID, so many families are contacting me now. They've always been contacting me, but it's like 20-fold because any sleep issues they were dealing with before COVID are now exacerbated now. And so I'm just trying to do as many things as I can is to support as many families as I can, which is why I started this Get Your Life Back. It starts with sleep video, Facebook Lives, answering very specific questions. And I'm going to start doing some workshops. So I am in the month of June, probably going to do 2 workshops. I'm probably going to do one on 6 to 12-month-olds so that you can get just a ton of information on how to encourage better sleep for 6 to 12-month-olds. And I'll probably do another one either on newborns or 2 to 3 year olds. But I need to hear from you guys on what you want. So what I'd like Anastasia to do, Anastasia, if you could just please post the link to join the wait list for the masterclass. For the workshop that I'm going to do. And when you add yourself to the wait list, you'll tell me the age of your child so that I can start to see like, oh my gosh, there's, I got a ton of 2 and 3 year olds. That's the first workshop I'm going to do. Right. So if you guys, Anastasia, if you could post that would be great. Because definitely, I think, Betul, you're probably going to need some guidance on this. A lot of times when you have a 2-year-old, you've kind of got 2 problems happening simultaneously. You've got learning how to teach them their sleep skills. And then you've also kind of got the behavioral elements and the power struggle elements that you're dealing with a 2-year-old. And then probably the third thing that is happening with you simultaneously is that she's in a big girl bed instead of a crib. And so essentially there's going to be like 3 elements to your sleep plan to be really effective. As you guys probably know, I work one-on-one with clients to walk them step by step, day by day through their sleep plan to offer real-time support on your unique personal situation. And I've been doing this for 10 years. I've helped over 1,000 people. So I've absolutely, Betul, seen your situation before. And I totally know I can help you and give you the clarity and the confidence on how to move forward and feel really, really positive about the sleep plan. Because you guys, everything I do is gentle sleep coaching. So everything I do, I probably should have said this at the onset, everything I do is through the lens of minimizing tears, minimizing frustration, making it easiest on the baby, making it easiest on the parents, and getting lasting results. And everything I do is based on sleep science, behavioral science, and attachment theory. And so for a lot of families, they're what I call like beyond the book, like meaning they've watched all the videos, they've read the blogs, they've maybe even tried a digital program, and they have never really gotten results, and they still find themselves in a very deep sleep struggles. And they also find themselves more confused than ever and feeling really overwhelmed and helpless. That's usually when they call me. And that's usually when I come in with my little sleep detective eyes and really work with you one-on-one, day by day, step by step. You're talking to me. Like my whole thing is when you have a question, you call me. Like I am a fly on the wall in your child's room, and I know exactly what they're doing when they're doing it and to tell you how to manage it. So Betul, if you're feeling you're beyond the book and needing that one-on-one support, then Anastasia, if you could just please post the link for them for Betul potentially to contact me to do a sleep strategy session where I can talk to you and your spouse or you and your partner for 45 minutes. Well, we can really evaluate more deeper what's going on with your child and what it would look like if we were to work together so that you have a very realistic understanding of the type of support and the type of results that you would expect once I know even more about your child. So that's what it's called my sleep strategy session. And it's really this unique opportunity to have a conversation with a sleep expert about your unique situation. So hopefully I'll see you pop up on my calendar, Betul, either or come to one of the workshops that's upcoming. Okay. All right. And yeah, and you know, really what Betul said is, you know, my sleep routine feels like a nightmare. And I hear that all the time, you guys. My sleep routine is exhausting. I am over my sleep routine. I can't take it anymore. I dread and feel completely stressed out when I think about and going and doing my sleep routine with my child. I hear this all the time. Who else here has had those thoughts? It's a miserable feeling because, you know, bedtime's supposed to be sweet and calm and loving. And when instead it's this struggle and like Betul says, a sleep routine that's a nightmare for both of us, like we don't want that. We want it to be sweet and calm and drama-free and easy. And when I say easy, I mean not only easy for the child, but easy for the mom or the dad or any other caretaker or babysitter that might put your child to sleep. I want it to be easy for anybody so that the parents have flexibility to go and do what they need to do, because no matter who's on duty at bedtime, it's going to be easy for that caretaker. That's what I want for all my families. Okay. All right. Next question is coming from Judy W. Judy is emailing me from Texas. She has a 2.5-year-old. And he, 2.5-year-old boy, and they are breastfeeding and co-sleeping, and they have since he was born. So they have chosen the family bed, probably very specifically. And so let me clarify that. There are two types. Okay, so I'm pro co-sleeping. Okay. And I'm pro co-sleeping under only one condition. If everybody is sleeping well, meaning the child is sleeping beautifully, the mom is sleeping beautifully, and the dad is sleeping beautifully. And they're doing it safely. And my recommendation on how to do safe co-sleeping, Dr. Sears is the man you want to see. Anything by Dr. Sears is fabulous information to help you do safe and fulfilling co-sleeping. So if you choose the family bed, then you want to be reading Dr. Sears and you want to be following Dr. Sears' recommendations, because it is a commitment and there are lots of safety components that you need to consider. And it is a decision, meaning you are choosing that lifestyle. Now, the other version of co-sleeping is nothing else worked, so my child ended up in bed with me, and it doesn't work that well, meaning my child doesn't sleep very well, and I don't sleep very well, and my spouse doesn't sleep very well, and we're just doing it because we're in survival mode. That's called reactive co-sleeping. And that's not really co-sleeping. That's just survival mode. Okay, so I don't know here if Judy is actively choosing a family bed and making a lifestyle choice, and is got Dr. Sears on speed dial, or if she kind of by accident fell into a reactive co-sleeping mode. But what's happening is that this child is waking up all night long. So even though she's like, you know what, you can be in bed with us, I'll lay down with you at the onset of sleep at bedtime, and you can stay with us all night, even still, he's waking up all night long. So this is making me, again, I only have the information that she provided me on the form. So I'm making some assumptions. So Judy, if you're here and you want to give me a little bit more info about whether or not that's happening, if you feel like you're in the family bed camp and now things are not going well and now you need to look at a change, or if you are in the reactive co-sleeping camp. And in fact, if there's anyone else here that wants to comment on that, what camp are you in? Are you in the family bed situation and it's still working well? Or are you in the family bed situation that was working well and it's no longer working well? Or are you in the, oops, I'm a reactive co-sleeper? It'd be interesting to see how you're doing. But basically what her question is how can we teach him to fall back asleep on his own? Okay. So again, Judy, remember that sleep is a learned skill. And so unless that child can do drowsy but awake at the onset of sleep at bedtime, then they don't know how to do it in the middle of the night by themselves. So the first thing I'd have you look at, even though you're in the co-sleeping environment, is when your child goes to bed at bedtime, is he needing you to sing to him, touch him, rub him, lay down with him, snuggle with you? Because if he's touching you or anything is being done to or for him at the onset of sleep at bedtime in the co-sleeping environment, then that means you have foundational sleep crutches at the onset of sleep, which means that when he wakes up at every single partial arousal all night long, there's going to be some version of support that he's going to want again from either you or your husband. And so if that's the case, if he doesn't have his sleep skills at the onset of sleep, then he's not going to have the ability to use them in the middle of the night. So if that's the case, and if you're here, if you could see if you can respond to me on that, then it means that you're going to have to do some sleep training with him. And you can sleep train in a co-sleeping environment. You can. You totally can. But again, the same thing is they have to learn how to do drowsy but awake. And with a 2.5-year-old, some kids are ready to be in a big boy bed or big girl bed at 2.5, but a lot of kids just are not ready, you guys. A lot of kids don't have the maturity to learn their sleep skills in a big boy bed if they've never known their sleep skills before. So Judy, again, kind of like what I told Betul, because you guys are kind of in a similar situation. She's got a 28-month-old, you've got a 2.5-year-old, pretty much the same age. Both of you guys are laying down with your child at the onset of sleep. You're probably both going to have to do some sleep training. And the question when it comes to sleep training is, okay, when do I want to, how do I want to do it? When do I want to do it? It has to be a parenting decision. It has to be a decision that both parents are making on behalf of the child to make sleep a priority in the household. This is not, sleep training your baby is not something that mom just takes on her own and dad has no part in the process. I really believe it is a family decision. It's a parenting decision, and that dad can play an incredibly important role, an integral role in the success of helping your child learn sleep skills. And so if you guys are just at the beginning of considering what your options are, then my recommendation is to start researching the different methodologies. And in fact, start researching the different methodologies and start having a conversation with your partner about the fact that this is something that you guys will have to do. And probably with a 2.5 to 3-year-old, that if you try to teach the sleep skills while also simultaneously teaching them in the big boy bed or the big girl bed, expect that it's going to take you 3 to 4 weeks of very focused, concerted effort when you're not traveling, when you're not having house guests, which maybe we're not doing right now because it's COVID, but and that you have a plan and that you're being super consistent. Because again, with 2 and 3-year-olds, you guys, they are tricky and they are you get into power struggles. So you have to be very systematic and careful about how you do it, when you do it, how you execute it over the period of time until they master their sleep skills. So again, if you guys feel like you need some one-on-one support, or you want to at least explore what that would look like, then definitely go to the page that that Anastasia put up here called Talk to a Sleep Expert, schedule your sleep strategy session. We can at least have a conversation about it. But you're going to, at the very least, buy this book, and you don't have to read the whole book. You could read the section on understanding tears and read the sections on 2 and 3-year-olds and just start kind of getting into the mindset that you're going to need to be making sleep a priority, and what it's going to take for that to happen. Because sleep coaching is not something you just start willy-nilly. It's like starting a diet. It's like you want to be very, very strategic so that you can actually get the results you're looking for. Okay. All right. So the next question is, we're going to go into some of the individuals that were here last week, that were live with me last week, but then the video was glitching and the video didn't, I don't know if it didn't save or just disappeared. I don't know. The whole thing's a mystery. So this is a question for Helena. She has a 2-year-old boy. She has been doing some sleep training. This is actually a good lead in from talking about Judy and Betul. She had started off in a co-sleeping environment, and they've been doing some active sleep lady shuffling for multiple weeks, going very slowly, very gently, very methodically, which is awesome. Again, like what I said, is like, it's a very strategic, methodical process that both mom and dad are involved in, and she's working really closely with her husband on this, which is fantastic. They're in a really good space where they're out of the room. The one caveat that's getting a little bit tricky is that sometimes at the onset of sleep, he'll get out of bed and he'll kind of wait for them to find him in the corner. Like, he's purposely doing that so that they'll come in and talk to him and take him back to bed. So that's a tricky one, Mom. Sometimes you can incentivize them at the onset of sleep so that doesn't happen. Sometimes it might mean you might be missing their sleep window when they just aren't able to stay in their bed because they're feeling like a little bit hyper. But her real question is this. Is there such a thing of putting him down for bedtime too early? His nap finished at 3 p.m. We start the process of putting him down at 5:30 or 6 with him, in his big boy bed at 6:45. And it takes him almost a full hour to fall asleep. And she's like, I'm aiming for a 4 to 5 hour sleep window after his nap. Should I really put him down at 8 p.m.? Okay. So what we're learning here is that her 2-year-old finishes his nap at 3 p.m. and she's ultimately putting him in his big boy bed at 6:45, and it's taking him an hour to fall asleep. And she wants to know, should she alter the time frame on which she puts him down? So what I would do, Helena, is that remember that when a child really has their sleep skills on any given night, it could take them anywhere between 5 and 30 minutes to fall asleep at the onset of sleep. So if we know that he's consistently falling asleep around 8, I would say that I would put him in his big boy bed at 7:30 so that you are definitely within his appropriate sleep window, and he'll fall asleep somewhere between 7:30 and 8. And I think that would give you a little bit more flex time to get dinner and bath done. That's what I would do there. And then her second question is how to coordinate naps and bedtime. She said sometimes her son will sleep 2 hours and sometimes he'll sleep 3 hours. And well, first of all, I love it when a 2-year-old takes a big juicy nap. So that's amazing that he has the potential to sleep 3 hours. But here's the deal. Sometimes if we let a 2-year-old sleep 3 hours during the day, then they start pushing their bedtime closer to 9 p.m. and that gets really hard on families. So what I would do, Mom, is I would cap his nap at like 2.5 hours so that you can keep your bedtime hovering around, hovering somewhere between 7:30 and 8 p.m. I think that that would make for a really nice family schedule, especially around summer. And then that way he's sleeping more at night instead of trying to make up some of his sleep hours during the day. And then also, I should tell you guys that Helena also said here, I have no me time. But I'm hoping, Helena, now that you've sleep trained and your son is sleeping better, that you finally feel that all the sleep training was worth it, because you can have more me time. Okay, so the next question is from Divya, and they have a 19-month-old baby boy. And Divya is actually one of my clients. So I love it when my clients are, checking with me. In fact, when I have clients, like, I keep in contact with them for years. I had a client from 5 years ago call me the other day, and it was just so lovely to talk to her and check in. And I have families that sleep train with me for baby number 1, and then they come back at baby number 2 and baby number 3. And so I get to see this growing family. Sometimes I even get Christmas cards. Like, it's so much fun. I love working with my families. So Divya, we sleep trained her child a year and a half ago when her child was 7 months old. So he's had awesome sleeping this whole time. And everything is going really well with her sleeping. They just kind of had like a little tune-up question. And the tune-up question is that right now her son is sleeping from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m. Whoop, whoop. How about that? 11 hours straight. And they had a lot of sleep crutches, and he was kind of tricky. He was a tricky one, but we managed to wean all the sleep crutches and help gently wean down mom with the bottle and the nursing. And so he's sleeping 7 to 6. But for them and their lifestyle, they would prefer that he wakes up closer to 7 a.m. And so they're wanting to know, how can we nudge the bedtime, or how can we nudge it so that he'll wake up later in the morning? Okay. Some babies will let us do what I'm recommending. In a moment, I'm going to make a recommendation on what you can do. Some babies will let us do this and we're successful. Some babies just won't. Okay, so you can give this, for those of you out there that have this desire to make the wake time be later, you might find success with my suggestions, and it might just make things worse, in which case go back to what your child's preferring. Children go through different ages and stages of what their preferences are, and if things are working and we try to fool with them to accommodate our own schedules, sometimes it's not really fair to them. And we know that because then the sleep disruptions come back. So how many of you have had that kind of internal debate with yourself about that you're content that your child's sleeping beautifully 7 to 6 a.m., but you're like, oh man, I just wish that they were from 7 to 7 or 7:30 to 6:30, or even better yet, 8 p.m. to 7. I had one family that said, I want my baby to sleep on Hawaii time. And I said, oh, that sounds fun. What is Hawaii time to you? And she said, well, 9 p.m. to 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. to 8 a.m. I said, okay, why 9 p.m.? She said, so that we have time to do sunset and have some cocktails at sunset and then put our baby to sleep. And then we can all sleep in. I thought, okay, that sounds really fun. But unfortunately, sometimes babies don't want to be on our schedule. They want to be on the natural circadian rhythm for their age and stage. So with that being said, here's what you can do. Right now, her baby is going to bed at 7 p.m. So what I would do is, for 3 days in a row, I would bump bedtime to 7:15. If everything stays smooth and easy, great. Move bedtime to 7:30 p.m. And if everything stays smooth and easy, meaning he's not protesting at bedtime, you're not getting any middle of the night arousals, and you're definitely not having him wake up earlier than 6 a.m., great. Then you should start seeing the wake up time moving towards 6:30. Then I would bump it up again to 7:45 and sit there for 3 days and make sure that there's no protest at bedtime, there's no arousals in the middle of the night, and there's no early rising. And then if that's still going good, then I'd bump it up to 8 and then hang out there at 8 for a week to 10 days and see if over time that morning wake up starts moving closer and closer to 7 a.m. Again, without protest at bedtime or unusual arousals in the middle of the night or any kind of early rising before 6 a.m. If one of those 3 things happens, it means you push bedtime too late and they really aren't ready for that lifestyle change. So that's how I would manage that. Okay. And you know, for example, these workshops that I was talking about that I'm going to be doing, like these are some of the topics I'm going to be talking about. So that, you know, whether you have a bad sleeper and you want to come and get some really good information, or you have a good sleeper and you want to just make some of these changes and get some direct insight, that's what I'm going to be there for. As part of the workshops, I'm going to be doing Q&A. So you'll be able to submit questions ahead of time that I can be ready for. And then, of course, we'll be live together on the workshop. And so I'll be able to answer questions right there as well. But it's just a great opportunity to be getting really specific information on the age and stage of your child. Whether you have good sleep already or you're struggling with sleep, both are going to be relevant. And then you get me live to drill into any of your own personal concerns and be able to have that back and forth banter. So it's just going to be, they're going to be really, really fabulous workshops. And I hope that you guys will want to attend. Okay, so the next question is from Shannon. And Shannon has a 13-month-old and she is from New Jersey. And Shannon's had kind of a rough winter. So she did some sleep training and was successful. So bravo, Shannon, for doing that. And then the baby boy got sick. He got like double ear infections followed by a respiratory horrible wheezing cough situation where he actually had to be admitted to the hospital. So first of all, Shannon, I'm so sorry. That's so, so scary. And so what happened is with all these back-to-back illnesses, they had to reintegrate the sleep crutches just to help him get to sleep and go back to sleep. And so basically poor Shannon is exhausted again. She said, you know, I'm just spent. I need a break. Can't get anything done around the house. No downtime, right? I mean, this is the theme. All of you guys have been saying the same thing, and it's hard. I get it. So her question is, how do I get my 13-month-old to go down in the crib awake and sleep through the night without listening to crying? Okay. All right. So here's the good news. The good news is, Shannon, that your 13-month-old baby boy, you've already sleep trained him once. So there is a part of him that has those sleep skills inside of him. It's kind of like when you learn to ride a bike and then you don't ride one for a long time, or you learn to swim and then you don't swim for a long time. Once you start doing it again, it starts to come back. So the good news is that when you go to kind of sleep train him again, it should go faster. It should go easier. And whatever sleep methodology you used the first time, if you felt that that was a good methodology for his temperament and it felt like the right decision for your family, then I would use the same methodology because it worked once before. But what you'll probably have to do after a regression is you're going to probably have to dedicate at least 7 to 10 days to going back to really working on drowsy but awake at bedtime and helping him wean the sleep crutches that popped up in the middle of the night. And, you know, here's the thing, you guys, like regressions happen. There's 3 reasons why regressions happen. 1, because of illness. Because of course, when our babies get sick, we are going to help them and attend to them. And of course, we're going to hold them. We're going to feed them. We're going to maybe co-sleep with them. We're going to do these things to help our babies go to sleep and go back to sleep when they have an illness, because sleep is the number one way that they can get back to their wellness, right? But if you've sleep trained a baby and you had a regression due to illness, the most important thing you need to remember is that the minute they're well, you need to go back to the sleep routine that was working for you before, and you need to make a concerted effort to wean the sleep crutches that showed up. And usually within 7 to 10 days, you'll be back on track. The second reason why people, get regressions is, they go to grandma's, they're room sharing at a hotel. They have to end up co-sleeping simply because of the setup in the room. Same thing. Do what you need to do when you're traveling, because you want to have a nice family experience. And just know when you get back, you're going to get back to your routines. And the third reason is due to milestones, right? When children go through their big leaps, which there are 10 of them in the first 20 months of life, they will typically always have sleep disruptions. And a lot of times the sleep disruptions are so hard that we as parents have to end up crutching them in the middle of the night. And when they get through that milestone, then we go back to the sleep training that we had done previously. So I think you're going to be okay, Shannon. It's just a matter of refocusing. And then you'll get your break back, because I know you definitely need that. Okay, let me check and see if there's anything, any questions that have come in. Okay, so what I'd love to hear from you guys, if there's anyone else still out there for live, if there are any aha moments you've had thus far. I've talked about a lot of different topics. I'd love to hear some ahas of something that that you can take and implement, or a fact that you didn't know before that you're like, ooh, that makes sense. Now I know why my baby's doing that thing. Or maybe you could just agree with some of the way that the other moms are feeling, and that you might be in that same boat. So I'd love to hear from you guys right now. I know Lisa said that she is working on Drowsy But Awake, which is awesome. She said, Dreamtown, I love it. Yes, we love when our babies go to sleep and go back to sleep on their own. All right. So Anastasia, if you could also post that about the workshop again, just because I have a feeling there's a lot of moms right now that are like, ooh, I might need to attend that workshop. I promise you guys are going to be totally amazing. And you're going to learn so much and feel so much more comfortable, so much more confident, so much more empowered to make the right choices on behalf of your child. Okay. Next question is from Andrea. She has a 26-month-old baby girl. Andrea's coming in from Minnesota. And she has a child that is very sensitive. Meaning that her child gets really deregulated really, really, really fast. And she sees this behavior in the day. And then, of course, like I mentioned earlier, whatever you see during the day, you're going to see exasperated at night. And in fact, they're actually working with a occupational therapist right now. And so they're doing strategies like heavy work and stimulation, like baby squeezes an hour before bed, which is great because that helps the child kind of get in that right state before bedtime. Those of you that have children that are really sensitive or might be having some sensory processing components when they're, closer to 2 and 3 years old, sometimes that's when we start seeing it. There's a really great book called Understanding Your Baby's Sensory Signals by Angie Voss. And so, Anastasia, maybe you could just post that title in there, Understanding Your Baby's Sensory Signals by Angie Voss. And, if you have a child that's super, super sensitive, and you believe they have some sensory processing, meaning they're like really sensitive to light, really sensitive to touch, smell, sound, you're going to know, you're going to know if you have a really highly sensitive baby that gets very quickly, especially if you have an older child, like 2, 3, 4, 5, and you've been noticing this for a while. I'm going to highly recommend that you look at, some occupational therapy. I had to do that with my daughter, and it was life-changing. It was amazing. It was such a positive experience. Of course, it was so intimidating to go and seek support in that way. But I think that, my first experience of learning that I don't have to struggle alone was when my child wasn't sleeping. And that's why I do what I do with you guys. I don't want you feeling that you have to struggle. It's just too intense when there's help and help available. And I struggled for, yes, she was 9 months when I finally got help, but I didn't have to. I could have done something about this when she was done rolling at 6 months, and I continued to struggle for another 3 months. And I was utterly depleted and a shell of a person by the time I got the help. So I learned, that was my first experience of learning I don't have to martyr myself. And when I found out later when she was 2 and 3 years old that she had some sensory stuff, I was like, oh, I've been down this road before. I'm struggling. I'm not going to stay in struggle anymore. I'm going to go get some help. And that's when I got a referral to an occupational therapist. And it was life-changing for her and for me and for my husband and our parenting. And that helped us in my educational journey with her too. So it's just, don't be afraid to ask for support when you're hitting some bumps. So anyways, so Andrea's, she's getting some help with the occupational therapist, which is awesome. But her question is, can you use sleep training when the child remains deregulated after 2 years of age? Where should we go now? She screams to go to bed and screams the moment she wakes up in the middle of the night. She will not use her lovey or anything to self-soothe. We have done short periods of cried out and have sat in the room. So first of all, I should tell you that with a really highly sensitive child, cried out does not work at all. It just, again, they already have regulation issues. So leaving them unattended to cry doesn't help them downregulate. They really need the support. So those of you that have really sensitive babies, you're probably going to want a sleep coach. You're probably not going to want to sleep train by yourself. Like doing it on your own is just too much. And it can get more intense and more awkward. So, I'm a gentle sleep coach, trained and certified. I obviously work with sensitive babies. But also if you go to the Kim West Sleep Lady site, so sleeplady.com, no matter where you are in the country or the world, frankly, there is a gentle sleep coach near you. And there is a subsection in the directory on those coaches that handle sensory issues. So you can, what I would recommend, Andrea, is to interview 2 or 3 coaches and just start gathering information about what your options are and get some insight and perspective from those coaches about how they would specifically work with you in your situation and what your goals are. And they can collaborate with your occupational therapist, and it can end up being a really wonderful collaborative experience between the parents, between the occupational therapist, and between the sleep coach. And on that note, you guys, I'm just going to give a recommendation. Whenever you're sleeping, if you decide to go at it alone, awesome. But what I always think it's a good idea is before you even decide to go at it alone, I would interview 2 to 3 sleep coaches before you made any big moves to do it on your own, or even big moves to buy a digital program, or big moves to hire somebody. I really feel that hiring a sleep coach is kind of like going to find a really good therapist. You want to kind of know what they do, how they do it, what their methodology is, how you would be supported, and get a sense of their personality. And I just think that before you sleep train, you've got to do your research and figure out what's going to be the right fit for you. So whether you go at it alone or you go at it with a coach, you want to interview some people, because even if you interview people and decide to go at it alone, at least you're going to know a little bit more about what you're contending with and what you need to, what path you need to follow, because you talked to some sleep experts prior to going out alone. So that's my recommendation there. I saw a question in here. Let's see. Let me see if I can find it again. From Valerie. Hi, Valerie. Good to see you. Valerie says, what are your thoughts on weighted sleep sacks for babies? Yeah, I like them. I think that babies, it depends on the age of the baby. So, like the Merlin sleep suit is weighted, and it's really good as a transition from a swaddle to, so babies that are in swaddles, sometimes it's too intense for them to go from the swaddle to nothing at all. And so we'll usually go from the swaddle to the Magic sleep suit, which is kind of weighted. It's almost like a little like astronaut suit. But once they're rolling, it's recommended that they're not in a swaddle or a Magic sleep suit. But weighted blankets can be really fabulous for children that are in a big boy bed or a big girl bed that maybe have some sensory issues. Weighted blankets can be extremely comforting to children in big boy beds and big girl beds that have some sensory issues. So that's really awesome. Okay. All right. My next question is Tiffany Chin. And she is calling in from California. She has a 20-month-old, it's not 20-month-old, a 20-month-old baby. She is on day 14 of the Sleep Lady Shuffle. So bravo for all these moms that are Sleep Lady shuffling and having success. So I love it. And so her question is, they're leaving the room. Okay, so her question is kind of long, so let me see if I can narrow it down. Okay, so they're trying to leave the room, but what's happening is that this 20-month-old stands at the crib and becomes hysterical. And so dad goes in to try to calm her down, and then but he has to say lay down to her. And that only lasts for like 30 to 60 seconds. And then the minute dad tries to leave the room again, she stands up and starts crying. And then dad has to come back into the room and, say lay down. So this is very common. Just so you know, Tiffany, this is not like something where you guys like did something wrong in your sleep plan, because obviously you've made some really great progress. When we go to leave the room, there is always big responses, and there's always some kind of glitch that comes up. And a very common glitch is what I call the lay down request, which is you've been Sleep Lady shuffling, you've been in the room, the child has been falling asleep independently, and then you decide to now be out of the room so that they can go to sleep independently. And when you leave the room, it's almost like night one again. They stand up in the rails and they get really mad. And the only time they'll go to sleep is if you go back in the room and say, lay down, and then they lay down and you're like, okay, done. And then you leave the room and they stand up and they start the whole thing again. So what happens is by accident, you create what I call the lay down request, which is the child literally will stand on the rails waiting for you to come in to say lay down. And you have to come in like multiple times before they actually stay laid down. Very common. It's very frustrating. So what you're going to have to do is stop saying lay down. And what that means is for the couple of days where you actually don't say lay down, she's going to be standing there waiting for you to come in and say it. So there's going to be several days where there's going to be power struggle around that when she realizes that she is going to have to come and sit down by herself with us. So what you would do instead, you'd still do a time check, but you would make the time checks like much longer, like 15, 20 minutes potentially. And then you would not say lay down. And I know, Tiffany, I answered your question last week, and I think you were live when I answered it. And we also talked about that I might have you go back in the room for like 2, maybe 3 nights, sitting down and saying absolutely nothing at the onset of sleep, but just physically being in the room so that she would kind of reintegrate going to sleep without anybody saying anything to her, and then make an attempt to get back out of the room again. That's another strategy. So that's how I would handle that. So those of you that are Sleep Lady shuffling and you're on the way out, I need you to be really conscientious of this lay down request, because you'll get into power struggle where the child will want you to come in and out, in and out. And again, she's got a 20-month-old, and the closer and closer they get to 2 years of age, this lay down request becomes a big thing. Okay. All right. I've got two more questions. And then I saw Tawny coming in here, which is awesome. So let me, in fact, since Tawny's here, let me just look at her question really quick, and then I'll try to see if I can answer it. And then if not, Tawny, we'll put your question in for next week. Let me look at this. Okay. So she says, my baby is 8 months old and sleeps well, 11 hours a night. That's okay. She also has 2 to 3 naps. We had a bedtime routine. Then every month she goes through this monthly regression, not wanting to sleep on her own, starts waking 1 to 2 nights. She cries for an hour and cries herself to sleep every month for about 5 days. She wants to be held. Okay. Oh, here it is. Okay, so there's the question. Gosh, I'm on StreamYard. I just thought that we can do this. That's awesome. Except I don't know how to get it off the screen now. Okay, so basically what we've got is that generally her 8-month-old sleeps really well for about 3 weeks out of the month. And then they have this 5 days a month where there's just a lot of drama. So again, Tawny, I need a little bit more information to make sure that your child is truly doing drowsy but awake at bedtime, and that they're going to sleep 100% independently with no sleep crutches at the onset of sleep, and that they have no sleep crutches at nap time. Because if there's some whispers of sleep crutches still kind of hanging around at nights and naps, then usually you'll start to see some challenging behavior couple of nights out of the month. And I think that's what might be happening too. So I'll wait till you respond a little bit more, and I'll move on to 2 other questions. Okay, I've got a question here from Harris. He has a 1-year. Harris is calling in from California. He's got a 1-year-old, and he has a baby boy, and it says, okay, so they've sleep trained, which is awesome. So the nights are done. Like, baby is sleeping beautifully at the onset of sleep, beautifully all night. But he says, how can I sleep train him for daytime naps without risking getting overtired? Okay, great question. So first of all, let me preface that when you go to sleep train your baby, it's always better to focus on nighttime training first, get that looking really good. Use your sleep crutches during the day when you're night training. And then once the nighttime is looking really good, then you can move on to naps, which is basically what Harris is doing. But what Harris is afraid of is that now that bedtime or nighttime are going so beautiful, he's afraid that if he works on nap training, that it's going to cause disruptions at night. And I want to let everybody, I want to normalize this for everybody that's listening. Once you've night trained, and you move on to nap training, sometimes when you start nap training, there are bumps in the road on the progress that you made at night. And that is something to be expected. That is normal. And I don't want you to be frustrated or think that your sleep plan for nighttime didn't work. Because what happens is that when we are fooling around with the daytime schedule and the child is not meeting their daytime sleep expectations, that will trigger arousals in the middle of the night. It will trigger early rising, and it will trigger the baby protesting more at bedtime. So that's kind of what Harris is afraid of. He's like, if I start fooling around with the naps, it's going to possibly hinder for a period of time my progress at night. So for some families, if you guys worked really hard on your night training and the nap sleep crutches are still working, take a little bit of a break. Take some time to appreciate the hard work that you just put in, and enjoy the quiet night and the peaceful bedtime, and give yourself a 2 or 3 week break, and then go back and nap train. That allows the nighttime training to really sink in and become masterful, and have you guys have the reliability and the dependability of that new sleep schedule, so that then you have the energy and the vitality and the focus to go and do the nap training. But when you go to do the nap training, just always have the expectation there might be some new arousals in the middle of the night, protesting at bedtime, or early rising. But you don't want to reintroduce crutches when you're nap training. for nights. And you just have to be patient in helping their child start sleeping independently for nap time. Okay, last question is Deanna. Deanna is coming in from Canada. She has a 14-month-old baby boy. She's also been sleep training. Deanna's been awesome. She's been on almost all my Zooms and my Facebook Lives and working step by step, week by week over the course of the last month or so to try to get sleep on track. And that's what I want you guys to know. Like, this is not a done in the day program. It can sometimes take several weeks because we're looking at teaching children learned skills, and every child has a different learning arc. You know, sometimes they learn really fast and kind of plateau, or sometimes they're like really pokey and then they get fast again. So we just have to be gentle with ourselves and gentle with them, that they're in a deep learning process. And so are we, because if we're sleep training, we're learning about our baby. So I love Deanna because she's been so diligent about making sleep a priority in her household. And she's been making incremental changes every week and making those little micro steps and being very methodical and patient with the process. She's getting results, which is awesome. So what her question is if her son is still having a little bit of early rising. And if you guys go back and look at my Facebook Live from May 14th, I did a whole section on early rising. So if you have a child that's waking up between 4 and 6 a.m. and they are rearing and ready to start their day and you are just miserable because of the early rising, I did a really long, detailed segment on early rising on the May 14th Facebook Live, which you can find on my page. And so she's still contending with it right now. And so sometimes he wakes up at 5 a.m. and then, of course, like, he's really tired and she's wondering, can I do longer naps on the days that he has early rising? So yes. So again, she's got a 14-month-old. So her baby is still probably taking 2 naps a day, because most babies don't transfer to 1 nap a day until they're more like 15 or 18 months. So in that case, if her child woke up at 5 a.m., I'd want you to try to keep your child up until at least 7:30 or 8 a.m. And once they're awake, once they're awake at 5 a.m., I want you to try to keep them awake until at least 7:30 or 8 a.m. Let them take nap number 1 and maybe cap nap number 1 at no longer than an hour and a half, so that they'll still be tired enough to take nap number 2 in the afternoon. That's how I would manage it on those early rising days. Okay, so let's see. 20 is just giving me a little bit more information here. So let me take a quick look. Okay, I'm going to put this up on the screen so you guys can see this. So I put her down drowsy during nap time and she cries for 5 minutes and falls asleep. But when it comes to nighttime, she doesn't always want to sleep on her own unless she's exhausted. When I feed her as part of the bedtime routine, she sometimes falls asleep. Okay, she falls asleep in my arms during the middle of the night after Dad tried to put her to sleep after an hour. She only wants Mom to put her to sleep by feeding her during those moments. So I think there's some sleep crutches. Okay, thank you, Tawny, for giving me some additional info. So that's something I want you guys to know. Effective sleep coaching and sleep training, it's all in the details. It's all in the nuance. It's all in these like micro moments that we have to try to understand our baby and make appropriate decisions. So yes, so just like I suspected, Tawny, it looks like you guys by accident have some sleep crutches at the onset of sleep, because she's falling asleep at the onset of sleep with some nursing or some bottle feeding. And then in the middle of the night, it looks like she wants you to hold her, especially after a failed attempt with Dad trying to get her down. So I think the reason why you're having all this inconsistency is because really she hasn't learned her sleep skills yet. And you're probably going to have to do some sleep coaching around that. Now, the good news is that it looks like she's doing naps on her own. So like I said earlier in this conversation, typically babies learn how to use their sleep skills at nighttime first, but there's a rare baby that does drowsy but awake at nap time, which is fantastic because it shows to you that she can do it If she can do it during the day, which is the harder time to do it, then she can totally learn to do it at night. But again, what we have to do is we have to create those right circumstances and that right environment for her to learn the sleep skills at the onset of sleep. And so in order to do that, we have to be, methodical, patient, systematic, and know that it's going to take her about 2 to 3 weeks at that age to learn how to really, 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 truly do drowsy but awake at bedtime, and learn to consolidate all those arousals in the night. And you're probably going to have to do some sleep training in a very calm, methodical way to help her learn those sleep skills at nighttime, now that she already has them during the day. And again, you guys, like I said, like every child can learn their sleep skills, which is awesome. So there's never a hopeless situation. Some children are fast learners. Some children are stubborn learners. The people that end up with me and needing my support, those tend to be the families that have tried things and nothing's working. And they're like, wow, I need somebody to explain all this to me. I'm completely confused, overwhelmed, and exhausted. Please hold my hand and take me through the process. But I think, Tawny, I think that you are really probably closer than you think. And I think you attending one of these workshops would be super awesome for you. I think that you would learn a ton, and probably enough to be dangerous enough to like solve your sleep struggles on your own. So anyway, so those of you that have had some aha moments, I'd love, before I jump off here, I've been here, I promised you guys I would stay for an hour or for as long as I needed to in order to answer every question that has come in to me since May 14th, because that last Facebook Live just was a tech glitch situation. And so I wanted to make sure I got in here and answered all this questions. So before I jump off, I'd love to see any aha moments that you had, any feelings of hope that you might have now that we've covered so much material. Anything that you might take away that you might even tell your friend about. And I would say, you guys, listen, if you want, in fact, Anastasia, can you post again how to ask questions in advance? If you guys have friends that are also struggling with sleep, if you could tag them and have on this Facebook and share it, tag them so they know they can come to this weekly. I'm doing them weekly on Thursdays at 2 p.m. Pacific. And I'm really committed to being in here to answer your questions and help you guys get over these struggles, and to not feel alone and not to feel overwhelmed anymore. So let's spread the word so more people can get their life back, because it's going to start with getting good information on sleep. And so you can, again, you guys, you can ask your questions in advance. I just need them 2 hours before, so I have time to prep. Anastasia is going to post that right now. It's a bit.ly where you go in and do the form. Those of you that want the information on the ages and stages chart, really amazing information to know exactly what kind of daytime sleep your child needs, nighttime sleep, and the wakefulness windows. Super, super, super helpful. And also the workshops that are going to be coming up. As I mentioned, I'm going to be doing them in June. And I want to start knowing who to alert that on the specific dates that I'm planning for. They're going to be jam-packed. They're going to be 2 hours live on Zoom. I'm going to have them really pinpointed on specific ages and stages. So I'm really talking to the moms that are really in those critical moments with that age and stage. And it's going to be live on Zoom, and a big chunk is going to be Q&A, so that you get me that expert support looking at your particular situation. So super action-packed and helpful. Okay, so I just want to say thank you so much, everybody, for attending. And I hope to see you next week. And I hope you have a really nice weekend. And more importantly, I hope everyone stays healthy and safe and sane. Sleep is bliss. Let's get you more. Thank you so much.